Hey world, it is Sheila, and today I have a special guest. It is Julia, and her and I have been in OPS for, well, how long have you been in it?
I think I joined in January, like the end of January.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she's going
Maybe
on,
8, 9 months.
okay, and then
Yeah.
me about 5, 6 months, and we have both been typed by Dave and Shan. And Julia, what is your type?
I am an ESFJ. So my full OP type is double feminine FESI, blast, play, consume, sleep.
Okay. And I, as many of you know, am an ISFP, and I am also double feminine, consume, play, sleep, blast. Last time I messed that part up. I'm like, no, I'm sleep and then blast. So, and I'm FI. So we decided to do a video together because I'm an FI Dom and she is an FE Dom. And so we're both lead feelers, and she's extroverted, I'm introverted when it comes to the whole Myers-Briggs, E and the I. But depending on our animals in OP, that doesn't necessarily always ring true. Because I'm kind of a little more extroverted in a sense where I'm not really mopey and quiet. I'm consume play, so I'm kind of like wee, yippee skippy. So we have questions that we're going to answer, and you guys can kind of see similarities between extroverted feeling in general versus FE and FI, and hopefully we'll just learn a lot more about what the functions look like in person. So do you have anything to add to that, Julia? What you're kind of looking forward to getting out of this?
I'm just sort of excited to see how we're similar and how we're different. I know that we've talked before about how in certain situations we can actually behave quite similarly, because we're both deciders, we're both sort of tribe people. But it seems like we kind of do things for different reasons. So I'm really excited to get into these questions.
Yeah, Julie and I, we've been partnered, like typing buddies for maybe 3-4 months around.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
So
around there.
we get together on the phone, we go over the classes, and we talk about ourselves too. And she's like, that sounds so much like what I would do. And I'm like, that's what I would do. I mean, so we had all these similarities of this feeling, but then when we started diving a little deeper, it looked different why we were doing what we're doing. So hopefully that will come out in today's questions too. So the first one I have is, we'll both be answering them, and I'll have Julia, since she's my wonderful guest, go first. Do you see a spectrum of emotions? Are emotions personal?
So, yes, I think I do see a spectrum of emotions, especially like for myself, I can tell when I'm, happy, sad, angry, bitter, I don't know, whatever. And I feel like I can see, I feel like I can see lots of different emotions. And when I'm looking at someone else's face, I can kind of say, oh, I think maybe they might be disappointed, or they might be upset for this reason, or they're just like a little bit uncomfortable, or they're I feel like I can have like lots of different names for emotions, and there can be lots of different kinds. So I don't really know exactly how that compares to FI. Like, I don't know how much of a spectrum there is, but yeah, I feel like I can see the spectrum of emotions. And then in terms of emotions being personal, I actually do kind of think that emotions are personal to me. Like when I am sad, it is like my sadness. And when I'm happy, it's like my happiness. So FE, even though it's extroverted, it feels like, at least to me, emotions still are personal. They're not necessarily my identity, like they're not what I define myself by, but like they feel so personal because it's your feelings. So I would say they are personal.
Okay.
What about you? What do you think, Sheila?
All right. So I also see the whole spectrum of emotions, and I feel the whole spectrum of emotions. So like you, I know exactly when I'm mad versus irate. And I could like on a feeling spectrum, I could label being mad. I'm a 5 on a typical mad level. Like, you know, at the doctors, they have the charts with 1 to 10 on the spectrum of pain. Well, I feel that with every emotion, like, okay, I'm a 3 today with my anger, or holy cow, that gave me like a 10 anger. So that whole, I can rank it along with feeling the whole spectrum of, um, you know, like if I'm just a little mad, it's just, yeah, like I just feel like that energy angry in myself is just, you know, a little bubbly versus a lot bubbly where you're just like this rage that just is like, wants to come out and kill someone. But yeah, but I don't. I just stuff it back down. And then our emotions personal. They're very personal. So personal that they do feel like they are my identity. Like if I'm mad, don't take that mad and anger away from me. Like I think I get mad when somebody's like, "Oh, just relax, just calm down." I'm just like, I feel like they're belittling my right to have that anger. Like, no, don't tell me to calm down. I need to process this anger and feel this anger and be this anger. And so I will get even more angry when somebody tells me not to. So I don't know. Does any of that relate to you?
So the first bit of what you said in terms of like being able to sort of rank your own emotions, I feel like I can do that too. It'd be like, oh gosh, this is the most angry I've felt in so long. The last time I was this angry was like this time. You know, I can tell how, you know, upset I am based on sort of my past experiences with my own emotions. I feel like I have the ability to sort of be able to do that. Um, but what you said about feeling so annoyed if someone tries to take that emotion away from you, I have never experienced that in my, that's totally foreign to me, completely foreign to me. Like if I'm upset and I'm in like a really bad place, I want someone to come and cheer me up. I want someone to be like, hey, let's make you happy. I'd be like, great, thanks, you know? And I also feel like, you know, like my emotions can change so much. I can be, you know, really, really sad one minute, and then something happens. Maybe someone comes and cheers me up, and then I'm happy the next moment. And for me, that's great. So that's quite a big difference, I would say.
Yeah, I don't like people trying to cheer me up. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, and I'm not, you know, mad that they're doing it, but it's not going to affect my mood. It won't. It's like I have to just work through those emotions myself and like filter them all through and figure them out and work them out. And then I'm like, okay, I've perfected what that emotion is. I've worked through it in my head and I can put it in my little angry box, you know, and then shut the lid and be fine with it. But I have to process them. I just can't not process them because then
Mhm.
I fester or just, yeah. Like, for example, yesterday, I woke up in a funk and it was so frustrating because I couldn't put my finger on the feel. Like I wasn't angry, I wasn't, you know, sad, I wasn't anything. It's just I woke up in a funk and it took me like 4 or 5 hours to process this funk. I had to go for a walk. I had to just be in this funk to get out of it. And my husband, he's throwing everything at me, trying to cheer me up. Let's go out for breakfast. Let's do this. And we celebrated, today's my birthday, but yesterday we celebrated my birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, Sheila.
Thank you. And so, you know, there's presents on the table and they're like, well, open up your presents. Maybe that'll cheer you up. And I'm like, And I knew I had to just be in the right mindset to open these presents, or these presents were not going to make me happy or anything. It's like I had to just work through this funk myself before I could bring my whole Sheila to the table. So I don't know.
Okay.
Not relatable to you, huh?
Not relatable to me. No. When I'm in when I'm in a negative emotion, being around other people who are going to bring me out of that is great. And I don't feel that sense of like I need to, be the one to. I mean, obviously, if no one's around, then I need to always be the one to bring myself out of that funk, obviously, and I can. But I prefer the outside world to sort of move with my emotions. That's like fun for me. So.
Okay. And I'm the one who wants to shut the doors. Everybody leave me alone while I process these feels. So, all right.
Okay.
There we go. There's hopefully some good insight there. And
I think that I guess that's like one of the core differences between FE and FI, right?
Yeah.
Now, your emotions are personal. My emotions are not. The outside world cannot move your emotions. The outside world can and absolutely does move my emotions. So, yeah. Well, so I guess, do you think that, you get annoyed when other people try to move your emotions, but do you think the outside world is unconsciously moving your emotions? Like, when something negative happens in your environment, do you feel like you have a good ability to like regulate your own emotions, or do you feel like you get swept up in the emotions of the outside world?
No, I don't feel like I get swept up. I can regulate them really well myself, and I can put on a happy face. Like, for example, even if I was in a funk yesterday, if I knew I had people coming over, I would have just took those emotions and put them on the back burner and dealt with them later. And I would have put on, a happy face for the outside tribe. Now, my husband, he sees more of the real Sheila, and I have a harder time being inauthentic. Like I have a harder time putting on the happy face around him, because I'm like, he's my people, he's my tribe, he can see me raw. But the other people that I'm not comfortable sharing, those raw emotions with, those are the ones I can just, they're coming over and we're going to eat some birthday cake. I'd just be like, hey guys, how's it going? And put that funk on the back burner until they left, and then, deal with it later or something. So yeah, I would never want to bring somebody into my, emotions.
And you also have masculine FI, right? So your emotions shouldn't be as movable to the outside world.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, yes, people can, do something that makes me mad. So obviously their actions affect me, but I think that's just everybody. It's not like I'm never affected and I'm not this robot. I'm a decider. I would definitely get affected by people, but I don't think I internally let them really affect me or maybe it will affect me, but no, how do I explain that? Okay, so say somebody makes me mad, I'll just be like, jerk, and deal with it and process it quickly, maybe call them out, be like, hey, why'd you do that? That kind of was, a jerk move or something, and be able to just quickly process it. So, yeah, I think I'm good at processing my emotions quickly in a lot of things, especially if I can pinpoint. Like that funk yesterday, I couldn't pinpoint what was causing it. And that was what was so frustrating. Like, I felt like demon feeler for a second. Like probably somebody's like, I'm kind of feeling off, but I don't know why. And like, cause like I know exactly why all the time. And that one was like, oh, why? And like, my morning, my last day of being 46, you know, like I'm just running through all these scenarios in my head. And, but yeah. Do
So
you?
along those lines, one of the further down questions is, how do you process your own emotions, and do you need to talk your feelings out loud to know what you're feeling? So like in the example you just gave, were you like, to process that, were you talking out loud to do that, or were you sort of in your own head to do that?
I was in my own head. I had to go for a walk because I had to get away from, you know, everything. And I went out and did like my 3-mile walk and just was processing it and thinking of why and what's going on and why am I feeling this way? And nope, it's just all up in my head. I didn't consume anything. I didn't talk to anybody. And by the end of my walk, I was feeling better. I must have processed it. And it was funny because it was like perfectly sunshiny day. And all of a sudden I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And then right over me was this one rain cloud that started pouring on me. And I'm looking around and it was like completely sunny all around me. And this rain cloud is pouring on me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the funniest analogy of I'm in my own little crabby world with my own little rain cloud on top of me. And I just started laughing from this rain cloud. And I was just like, okay, Sheila, you are being crazy and you're being ridiculous. Just snap out of this mood, whatever it is. And no, I have to just talk to myself over it and work it out. Do you think you do better with the other people trying to move you than talking it out yourself?
Not necessarily with other people. So this was actually something that was a little bit difficult for me to think about, because my first thought was, oh, I always know what emotions I'm feeling. I can identify my own emotions, and like I do that in my own head, and I don't really need to talk to other people. Because like I feel like when I'm like really, really sad, I'll kind of like, retreat and want to be alone a little bit. So I was like, oh no, I don't talk it out. And then I really thought about how I would actually process like a really difficult emotion. And like I'll know what emotion I'm feeling, but it's hard for me sometimes to pinpoint why, what is really causing that. And if I can't pinpoint why, sometimes I'll just talk to myself. Like I'll talk out loud, but I do need to like actually talk and like get it out of my mouth so it's not just in my brain. And if it's to the point where I feel like I can kind of talk about it and like kind of have some, grasp of what it is, then I would prefer to go to, someone that I'm close to and talk to them about it. So like talk with another person about it. And then that helps the most. Being with another person, talking about why I'm feeling such and such a way. So that is probably like the optimal way that I would process my emotions.
All right. And see,
Out loud with another person.
I feel
Yeah.
vulnerable when I talk about a feeling, like when I'm in the middle of the feeling and I'm feeling the feels. I don't like talking to people about it at all. And sometimes my husband will be like, well, what's bothering you? What? And I'm just like, nothing, I'm fine. And it's just like, stop asking me, and then I'll just start shutting down more. And then I'll start just like pushing away more. I don't like to verbally express that feeling, especially when I'm in it. Maybe after the fact I can talk about it, be like, oh yeah, I was being a total like crazy, like that, like laugh about it after. But when I'm in it, no, it's like, don't, like if I'm really angry, don't try to, ask me why, because it probably make me more angry. And then I'll just like, yeah. And I'm the type who usually would run away, go to my room, shut the door. And if he comes, knocking on the bedroom door, then, then I'm in my car, taking off, or I'm on foot walking. Like I just have to run away when I'm in the feels hardcore.
Yeah. And for me, like if I really have no idea why I'm feeling this way, um, then I don't like to talk to someone else. But the first second I have a thought about, ooh, maybe this is like I'm feeling this way because of this thing, then at that point, once I like have the first inkling of any sort of thought, I want to share it with another person and then like talk it out.
So
Yeah.
how often do you not know a feel, you think?
I feel like not very often these days. Like I can usually figure out why I'm feeling any way that I am fairly quickly. I'm thinking back to like times like a long time ago when I would like get really upset over something and be like, why did I get so upset? But yeah, recently, like nowadays, I feel like that does not happen very often.
No, it doesn't hardly ever happen to me. So once in a great while when I'm in that funk, and that's the only word I can ever put to it, because it's just one of those things where you're like, I don't know, like almost hormonal in a way, but it wasn't. And but that happens like so rarely. Usually I always have my finger on exactly why I feel
Mhm.
so. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was only question number 1. Well, we got
I know. Well, we got question 3 in there a little bit, so yeah.
all
Should we
right.
go on to question 2?
Yeah. Do you see a spectrum of values? Are values personal?
You can go first on this one, Sheila.
Okay. I do see the spectrum of values. I see my spectrum of values, and I see society's values too, and what's important to society. Do I ascribe to their values? Not necessarily. There might be some that coincide with my values, but my values are my values. And if it goes against the tribe, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to change any of my values because society says it's normal. Oh, it's acceptable. This is what everybody does. I'm thinking, well, it's not what Sheila does, And so I'm not one to just go along if the value is not my value. Does anyone? I doubt. I just can't imagine. But no, my values are my values. The tribe's values are theirs. If they don't line up, then whatever. I'm just not going to bend. I'm not going to even play and entertain it either. I'm like, no, I don't believe that. And that's that. I'm sorry, is my barking dog like really loud? And then our values personal. So yes, they're very personal. They're very personal. How about you?
And what?
How about you?
Values to me don't feel personal. They actually feel like objective. They just feel like they are. Of course, these are values because it's self-evident, like that. I value kindness, generosity, integrity, honesty. I don't know, things like that just seem like, of course, it is obvious that those are values. And I feel like I see the spectrum of values. I feel like I see society's values. I feel like not necessarily that like I just go along with whatever value someone else has, but I feel like I just have the ability to be like, oh no, like that's a bad value, this is a good value. um and I can just sort of see why. And I don't feel like you're like, oh, those are your values, and those, it just goes against my own personal values, and that can be your values, but it's not mine. I'm like, why? My perspective would be, why do you value that? That's a stupid value. Like that's just not objectively true in the outside world. Here's society, here are the average values that people have, and you can kind of tell what are the good ones and what are the bad ones. And that one is a stupid one.
So they're stupid. Well, I mean, I see the stupid ones out there, and I'm like, why does someone want to value that? But I'm like, fine, if that's what you want to value, then more power to you. That's not what I want to value. And I don't want them to put their values on me, and I would never put my values on them. Like when I do see like people who are just so outspoken about their values, like out
Like me.
rioting or talking about their values so freely and like arrogant and confident, I'm just like, ooh, like don't like even putting your political sign out in your yard. I'm like, to me, I'm just like, that's so stupid. I'm like, oh yay, good for you, that's what you believe. It's like, it's almost, to me, they're like throwing it in my face, and I don't like seeing that. And I don't know if that's just a weird IP decidery thing, but it's like when I see somebody flaunting their values or their beliefs on something, I'm like, oh, it's such a turnoff to me.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you gave the example of someone's sort of, political stance is not, them like, showing their values to the world. Because I feel a little bit the same way, but I view that as like someone else's belief. Like, I believe that this is the right thing. I'm like, oh, that you can believe that. And like, I'll have my own beliefs, because beliefs are personal to me. What I think is like I guess true, so I kind of feel the same way just about this specific example you gave, but I frame it in a different way.
Okay.
It's
And I think
interesting.
your beliefs are part of their values. I feel like, because if they say they believe in one person who believes in this, way of the way that, say, the government should be ran this way, it's kind of, they're valuing that, way of the government should be ran this way, so they also believe it. And yeah, I feel like, oh, I wonder if I just put belief and values together. And do you keep them separate?
Sort of. I think of beliefs, when I think of my own beliefs, I think of my TI. And when I think of like the specific example you gave, like, I believe the government should be run this way, I think, well, it should be run that way because that's what makes sense for, the country, in a very sort of like logical block banging TI way. So
Mhm.
like I just associate that with my TI. But maybe you associate that with your FI.
I
That's
bet.
great.
Yeah, because I feel like values and beliefs are one, and that would be more FI-ish in a way, wouldn't it?
And I totally see why that actually almost makes more sense. I totally see why what that would be. I had associated beliefs with my TI, things that are true, things that make sense. But I totally see why beliefs specifically would be associated with values. That's interesting. Anyways,
Yeah.
so I was also thinking, in terms of like a spectrum of values, one thing that I've noticed myself doing is just like throwing out value judgments about things. Like, this is important, that's not. Oh, like, okay, maybe that's true, but like, who cares? What's the point? Like, that is an unimportant thing to spend your time thinking about. Why? Like, what's the point of this? What's the point of that? That's unimportant. And I'm interested to know, I mean, since we've like been chatting on the phone the past few months, have you like heard me do that, and has that sort of triggered your FI?
Can you give me a more concrete example for my SE?
I'm trying to think if I've done any of that stuff for like typing people. I guess I can't think of any examples that we would have discussed in terms of objective personality. That's okay. I thought maybe I might be throwing those things out all the time.
No, and maybe I'll pay attention to our conversation now and see if, in general, I don't get triggered. Oh, not a, it takes a lot to trigger me in general, I mean, little things can, yeah, be like, you know, like the eye roll, but to like really trigger and get me, you know, like I feel like I hum along pretty even most days. And, you know, just little blips, you know, that might just kind of, it's, I don't know. I was trying to really figure out my tidal waves, what really triggers me, because I don't have a ton. So yeah, I'll see like if anything you say today, I'm kind of like, but no, I mean, I've never had a conversation where you've triggered me at all. I walked away our conversations. I'm like, ooh, I hope I didn't trigger her. You know, like I feel like cringy, like, oh, did I say this too much?
There's nothing that comes to mind, Sheila.
Yeah, that insecure, like my insecurity comes out. I'm like, you know, like what did she think of me? What, you know, so I'll go there more than anything, you know. But yeah, all right. So anything else to add to that, or are you good?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So well, we did three. We kind of did three, right? How do you progress or process your own emotions versus processing, handling the emotions of others?
Well, yes, we talked about processing our own emotions. We didn't necessarily talk about processing the emotions of others. Um, this is like, honestly, I feel like I'm still trying to figure out how best to process other people's emotions. Like, it doesn't really bother me when other people get emotional, but I also feel like when other people get emotional, I have a um, really strong sense of like I should help them. You know, like I should like be with them and like do what I can to sort of bring them to the emotional state that they should be. And I feel like my like natural urge is to just like give them a hug, like give them just a giant hug and just like be physically affectionate with them and try to like make them really happy. But I also realize like that's not the best thing to do because like just being happy and like avoiding talking about whatever you're feeling is not really very healthy. So I don't know that I have like a good strategy to handle other people's emotions, but I do feel very obligated to like be with someone when they're, you know, upset for some reason, or you know, having a negative, or just having any sort of emotion that like they are having difficulty handling. I feel an obligation to that. But I don't necessarily take on their emotions like for myself. I can see that they're having the emotion and I want to help them. And I can see what's going on, but I don't really, you know, like take it on as my identity or as, you know, just as something personal. It's not something that's personal to me, which is interesting because so the last, sorry, I'm kind of going blah, blah, blah now.
That's what we're here for.
You want to. The one of the most recent classes that Shannon Dave have, maybe it was like with Bronnie Ware. Mm-hmm. She's lead feminine FE. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, they were talking about how FIs like take on other people's emotions as like really, really their own, and it can like really, really like if it's a very negative emotion, it can like you know, take them to a really, really dark place that's really difficult to get out of. And one of the things that Bronnie was saying was that, you know, as a lead FE, she can be around people who are having some really, really deep, dark emotions and feel for them and feel with them, but not get like swept up in it. And I feel like that when I'm handling other people's emotions. Yeah, maybe I don't necessarily know what to do, but I try and I'm there with them. But I don't get swept up in their emotions. If they, you know, are gone from the room, I can like empathize with them and feel with them, but then be, you know, happy the next moment. So that's kind of how I process other people's emotions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, processing other people's emotions. So I am fine, you know, being around people who are happy or sad and they come to me with their problems. My first response is to want to give them helpful suggestions. So is that kind of a TE thing probably?
Oh, like yeah, TE suggestions,
Yeah, I'm kind of like
like
think,
solving their problem.
yes, my brain wants to go and fix it right away. I'm like, well, have you tried this? Maybe if you did this, this would work for this, and maybe that would make you feel better. Like I want to give them TE help right away. For like say my friend comes to me, complaining about such and such. I'll be like, well, maybe this is how you should handle it, and yep, it's right away. My brain wants to go to TE help. Now, if they come to me with emotions, like feeling something, I do very, very, very much take on their emotions. And it's almost like I jump into their skin and feel the feel with them. And sometimes it's exhausting depending on the situation. Now, probably the worst one was my best friend lost her 15-year-old son. He died 3 years ago, and I went to her house right away. Well, the next morning because it was late at night, and I, I mean, I had this like heavy, all the way there, like so much anxiety and stress and sadness, and like felt sick to my stomach, like I wanted to pull over and puke numerous times driving to her house, already anticipating the emotion that I was going to like open up the door and just be like, whoo, and I just took a look at her, and right away, I mean, just obviously I went and embraced her, and that pain that she felt, I I couldn't feel the exact pain or think I could even imagine feeling exactly what it was, but I could feel what I think would feel it. Like it's like I put myself in what if I just lost my daughter, what it would feel like. And I had to sit and feel those feelings with her for days and hours, and it was constant. Even when I would leave her for the day and come home, the heaviness and I was like a walking zombie. It was like as if one of my child had died also, and I knew I was only experiencing that on a level separate from her because she was really in it. But yeah, I would wake up in the middle of the night crying. I would wake up in the morning with this heaviness on my chest and this like despair and gross, like, ugh. And even now when I think about her and her pain that she deals with every day, I will just like break down some days and feel the feel. And like right now when I'm talking about this, it's like I can feel my blood pressure rising. I can feel that nauseousness in my gut. I can just feel all of that. And I can't unfeel it. It's so, even the other day we were driving and there was a deer on the middle of the road. She had just got hit, and she's on the side of the road, like trying to get up, and her legs were broken and she couldn't get up, and these cars are driving by. And I went to, I'm like, right away, I just put myself in this deer's brain and what it must have felt like laying there with this fear and confusion and pain. And I felt sick to my stomach watching this deer struggling on the ground. And all day long, every hour on the hour, I was thinking about this deer, and I was praying that somebody's just like, hopefully the police came and put it out of its misery. And it was just like this all day, this heavy thing I couldn't shake. And I do that with other people's emotions often when it's heavy. If they're just a little mad, I'll start getting a little mad. Or if somebody's talking about a really stressful situation, I can feel my blood pressure rising. I'm like, well, yeah, and I'll get kind of worked up in my inside too. And it doesn't dissipate right when they leave. It'll linger there. So I don't know if that's just being a super empathetic person, or if that is just what FI is.
That to me sounds very FI-ish. Sounds very like exactly what Shannon and Dave were talking about on the class with Bronnie Ware, that the FI gets just like swept up in someone else's emotions and feels that person's emotions. That's like, see, that is so just amazing to me. So I have not felt what you're describing, where someone else has a really, really, strong emotion and you just get swept up in it. I don't experience that. That's incredible.
It sucks. It's downright exhausting, because even if my husband comes home and he's had a bad day, it's like I can't not feel a feel when someone's feeling a feel. And luckily, I think I've processed so many of the feels over the years, it's like, but it's still it's exhausting.
It
And
sounds exhausting. It sounds incredibly exhausting. Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm an introverted IP, that are like, people stay away, because it very much can drain me. Like right now, after just talking about that out loud and reliving those feels right now, I'm kind of like, whoo, mama needs a cocktail. Like, it's like, get worked up again. And I don't know.
And it's funny when I think about, because there are times when I can be like, you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to like be around people too, or like be around, negativity too. And it can feel draining to me too, but not because of what you're saying, not because like I will take on their emotion and then it just like drains me. It's because I know if I'm in a situation where there's someone else who needs something, like for whatever it is, either an emotional thing or like a practical thing, like they need something, they're in a place where like they can't help themselves, I will feel obligated to like do something for them. And like if I get into a situation where I feel obligated to do something, then that can continue and snowball, where I feel obligated to do another thing, and then I feel obligated to do another thing, and then I feel obligated to do another thing, and I feel like that is the thing that can be draining, like the feeling of obligation to like do something for someone. It can be obligating to like make them happy or make them feel better or whatever, or to do something for them, but it's draining, but for an entirely different reason.
And I never feel obligated to do for others. I do for others because I want to do for others. I don't feel obligated. Now, if somebody comes to me with their obligation and says, I need help or something, I will do it. Say I don't want to do it, I will still do it because I like the person, I love the person, I want to be a good person. But I never feel like, oh, I have to, unless they're really, like, yeah, obligations to me, I don't feel responsible for in general, for the most part. And I'm very good at saying no. I mean, people usually
I need to learn that skill.
Yes,
It's a skill that I would like to pick up.
they never come to me and ask me for favors, hardly ever in life. And it's probably maybe they've done it a couple times and I'm just like, no, I can't. Sorry, I can't do that. I can't, and they just learn to not approach me anymore. So I've trained them, so you're probably training them to like, come.
I feel like when someone asks me to do something for them, like my mouth will say, of course, before my brain even has like a millisecond to process it. I don't process it. There's no processing that goes on when someone asks me to do something for them. It's like, yes, my brain is off. Like there's like no problem. Of course.
Yeah. I could stand to take some FE advice from you, and you could stand to take some FI advice from me, because I need to be a little more like you in a lot of ways, because yeah, but Yeah, that's funny. That's
Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
So the
So
next.
I think we should the next question.
All right.
Right? Yeah, do you talk to your feelings out loud? I
Okay.
do. Okay. So number 5. Oh, which of you is more empathetic?
Well, I guess what is your term and meaning and definition of the word empathetic? Because there's a
Yeah,
lot, means so many people call it certain things.
totally. I have no idea what my definition of empathetic is. To be honest, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this as like an FE, but like I've never really considered myself to be really, really empathetic. Like that's not in like the top 10 words that I would use to describe myself. Like, oh, I'm a really empathetic person. You know, I'd say I'm a very like generous person, or you know, something like that. I wouldn't necessarily use the word empathy. I don't even know what my definition of empathy is. Do you have a definition of empathy?
I did look it up. Let me go
Oh,
to,
good.
let me double read it
You've
because,
prepared.
well, I did the other day, last night. I'm like, okay, I had to look up a couple words here, and I just wanted to have, but of course, I already don't remember feminine sensory. So empathetic. I'll read empathetic. Usually I have to wear my cheaters, but EMP, empathetic. I feel like Dave typing here. Um, so of, oh no, give me, come back here. All right. It says of relating to or characterized by empathy. And then so empathy means the psychological identification with or vicariously experiencing of the feelings, thoughts, or attitudes of another. So basically, it was what I described about the deer and my friend, and being able to
like step into their shoes in a very, I don't know, like, yeah, like really step into their shoes in a very deep way.
yeah, the
Yeah.
feeling of just living vicariously through them, through their emotions, their feelings. So
Mhm.
I guess I have always considered myself a very empathetic person, and I would very much consider myself, that's probably one of the higher things on my list when I would describe myself. So yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
guessing
If the definition is, sorry, go ahead.
no. So if that's the definition, and if I'm understanding it correctly and understanding what I'm doing correctly, then I would say, yeah, I am very empathetic.
Yeah, if the definition is like like really sharing another person's feelings, like really stepping into their shoes and feeling those feelings with them, then you are leaps and bounds more empathetic than I am. FI wins.
Well, if we're reading
Or
it,
lose, depending on how you see it.
yeah, because man, everybody has it. Because there's also like sympathetic and other things that are very similar, and it's all kind of gray when I'm reading a lot of that. And I'm like, well, that's so. I'm sure everybody has their, but that's what the dictionary.com says, and so, and it's kind of what I feel when overall. So yeah, between the two of us, I guess if I would look more empathetic, I
See?
guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Totally.
Do you consider yourself an optimistic or a pessimistic person?
I am optimistic to a fault. Like optimistic to the extent that I have difficulty seeing negativity. Optimistic to the extent that I will always find something positive, and after the fact, my brain often just forgets about the negative. Like I feel an insatiable urge to always find something positive in any situation. Like I am just insanely optimistic, like kind of like exhaustingly optimistic. So yeah, I'm very, very optimistic. What about you?
I am exactly that. I'm totally optimistic. I'm always looking for the silver lining. Every gray cloud has that silver lining. Every situation can be used for good. I just always am thinking about the best possible outcome, and I'm always just trying to spin a negative to a positive. Very
Mhm.
much so. I'm just always like, oh, it's just gonna work out. I'll just be fine. You know, like, and very, very, very optimistic all the time.
Mhm.
So we're very similar.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder what function that would fall under for us. Is that just
Is optimism even a function thing? I mean, I guess like I know FEs like always want to be happy. That's like a thing about FE, but like anyone can be optimistic, right?
I would think so. Is it just kind of a mindset, right? Like
Yeah.
choose to look at the good and not the bad. So maybe it's just a mindset.
But I do wonder if lead FEs would be more likely to be optimistic. Because my optimism feels like it's like involuntary. You know, it feels like my brain is literally like, okay, we are going to be happy, 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 happy. And to do that, we need to focus on the positive and not the negative. Here's how we are going to achieve the FE happiness is by like always finding the positivity. It feels very, yeah, just like a very like innate urge to be optimistic. Do you feel that, or do you feel like it's a choice for you to be optimistic?
Um, I think it's probably more of a choice, but it's kind of just my default. And I don't know if it's just because I've chosen that mindset all the time to just, go there. And even with somebody's like, oh, it might go bad. I'll be like, oh, no, don't say that. Just, well, let's think positive. And so, um, I don't know. I feel like it's people's choice to have that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's just always been a big mindset of mine that it feels more innate now.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'll be like, mm, I don't ever, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just a conscious or unconscious thing. But it's quick. It's just like, oh no, everything's gonna work out fine. And when there has been a really negative thing, I do tend to forget the negative quickly, and I don't think about the past negative often, if hardly ever. Like it's probably a good thing because, like, say my husband had gotten in a fight or something, and we, a week later, I'll be like, I don't even remember what the fight was about. Did we even fight? Like I'll just forget about a lot of that stuff too. And it's probably just feminine sensory for the most part. But I'm not one to, like my mom, she was one like, September 4th, 1942, you made me mad, and she would just like hang on to that anger and throw it back in your face. And I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. Or, like she just would hold on to that anger. And I don't. I mean, my past is my past, and I'm just kind of like in the now, looking for the future. I rarely ever, I never throw stuff back at my husband's face. I mean, maybe once in a blue moon, there might be something that he's did, or maybe something that he reoccurringly does that I'm like, like that type of like, always do this, but like one thing I have a hard time remembering.
Let me ask you, the things that you feel like you will grab onto and will maybe, I don't know about throw back in someone else's face, but the things that you will remember and like negativity that you hold on to, is it negativity to do with like a certain one of your functions, like either your FI or your TE? Like is it decider stuff that you hang on to basically?
I think it's probably um, maybe a combination of both, because I will hold on to how they made me feel in the moment versus what they said. I'll kind of remember more of the anger or that feeling, and what they said would be more murky for me. I'm like, oh, I know, I don't remember what they said, but I remember it made me mad, like that type of thing. Or like for the yeah, like I wonder what TE would be like. I guess people telling me what to do, I will get a little ragey there. Like a couple months ago, I had to bring my dog into the vet, and this vet comes in the room, and right away, I just didn't like her. The minute she walked in, I'm like, my FI was like, I don't like this lady, hadn't said a word or anything. And I already figured out I didn't like her. And then she comes in without even saying hi or greeting. She's like, well, if you plan on breeding your dog, you better get hips and elbows checked. And that's how she came at me, right? And just the way she's like, you better do this. I was just like, oh. I mean, my husband kind of like, he felt me like sit up straight, and he kind of like put his hand on my leg, like, oh, nobody tells baby what to do, like mad I'll get. And I was just like, and I remember just being quiet and like, okay, and I didn't say anything I wanted to say anything. Like, is this how you're just going to come on in and just attack? So I don't know what function she got me so riled up, but for a couple days I was just like, and that vet, she's, because I feel like, I know, I think I felt like she thought I was stupid and didn't know if you're going to breed your dog that you need to get those things checked. She was treating me like a child, I guess, like I didn't, like I was stupid. I didn't know that, yeah, of course I'm going to, so I think that's what she triggered me around my tea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've noticed for myself, like I have such, a tendency to forget the negativity, but the negative things that I do remember seem to be negativity associated with my TI. It's the things that I grab onto that, like, I remember, like, oh, this hurt me so much. That's like a really, really strong memory. Is when someone like criticizes me, criticizes my TI, my identity for some reason. You're this kind of a person, you're that kind of a person. Like, that's when, like, that's the negativity that I latch onto, because it's negativity with my demons. But the other stuff, I'm like, oh, whatever, I'm just happy and positive.
So with your TI, since it's your identity in like reasons, like for me, that T, like she just thought I didn't know what I was going, like she treated me like I was stupid. Now, do you feel that same, like when somebody not calls you stupid, but you insinuate or you take from that they're hitting you in the thinking stupid part? Is that like TI too, or is that something else?
Oh yeah, no, that's totally TI. Like, if someone insinuates like that they think I'm stupid or they think I don't know something, that can hurt a lot. And that would be something that I would like remember. Yeah.
So it's both just kind of the T function. Because yeah, it didn't hurt my identity. Like I didn't take it like sometimes when people attack me, it feels like a full on like gut blow when they are attacking certain parts of me, but just calling me like, how I took her as she was calling me stupid. I was just kind of more like, I just wanted to punch back at that point. Like my feminine T wanted to just be like, who do you think you are? I'm not, I know, like I wanted to just go on this little rant to her, but obviously my feminine self there would just be like, okay, and I was just, I'm like, I'm never going back to that lady. And that's how I would just deal with it versus confronting her. And I think if I had that masculine, I would have probably been a little more punchy, like, but no, I'm not going to punch. But it didn't hurt me like an emotional hurt. It just made me mad.
And for me, it would hurt me in an emotional hurt where it feels like someone criticized my identity. And especially if someone like really triggers my TI in a negative way, it'll feel like I'm a bad person and I'll always be bad because I have no ability to change that, right? Because I can't like consciously control that. So it feels like this very sort of helpless state where like I can't move forward because the outside world has criticized my identity, and it's a serious thing because I'm a decider and that's serious. And also I can't change it because I have no ability to, influence my own identity. So that can be like really, really difficult.
Yeah. And for her, like for me, it didn't affect my identity at all. I was just like, it didn't hurt me, but I just wanted to like basically prove to her, hey, I'm not stupid because I know I'm not stupid. Like my FI knows that I'm not stupid, but she was calling me stupid, so I just wanted to like school her and be like, you're wrong versus you hurt me, or I think I.
And that's so interesting that it didn't hurt you, but you said you were processing it for several days later, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't hurtful to you. It wasn't like, oh, you hurt me. But it was like, it still took you a while to sort of process it and figure out what was going on.
Yeah, the anger part I had to process, and it's like, why did she make me so angry? Like, and usually when somebody makes me really angry, um, I, I, I'm not one to call them out, but I might be like, if it's a close friend, I'll be like, well, that hurt, or that wasn't very nice to say. So I'll kind of like voice my feelings on it. But her, I couldn't, well, I guess I could have, but I didn't. And so when I came home, I felt like there were so many times I wanted to call up the place and be like, she was so rude. And this is what, like, it's like, I just wanted to like lash out, or I don't know why she made me so mad. I wonder why. Yeah.
Was it because she's saying like you can't TE, like you can't, like you can't use your thinking, and also like you wanted to tell someone else what to do, kind of thing? Like you wanted to use your TE, but you felt like it was weak, kind of thing?
Maybe because I know, yes, if you're going to breed your dogs, you better make sure their hips and their elbows are good. And so for her to,
I don't know that.
so for her to assume I didn't know it, I think that's where I was so mad. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know what I know. Like, I think that's what made me so mad. I don't know.
And I'd be like, oh, you know me better than I know me, so I believe you.
Oh, yeah.
So funny.
That's an interesting one. But I think it both stems around our demon T in general.
Yeah. Demon T, and also tribe things, right? Like someone else sort of criticizing, well, I guess she wasn't criticizing, but you kind of thought it was she criticized your identity a little bit, but in like a different way.
Yeah, more what I knew.
Yeah.
My facts in my brain. Like she was challenging my known information. Like, I know that, like, yeah.
Interesting.
So maybe it was, she was definitely challenging me around my NT part. She was so not SF either. She was probably a lead NT and triggered me. And I'm like, oh. All right. So let's see. When you walk into a room with others in it, do you feel an energy or vibe or overall emotion of the space? And what is that experience like?
I don't know. Do you have a good answer to this? I don't know if I have a good answer to this.
I have a good answer for this.
Okay, great. Then you go first.
But maybe you should go first.
Okay. So, gosh, I don't really know. I kind of tried to like put myself in a situation where I'm walking into a room and I'm like visualizing kind of what happens. And okay, so I can think of one example of where I was with a group of people and we were all sort of sitting around and like none of us really knew each other really, really well. We were just like a group of people that like kind of got together. And I was kind of like sitting a little bit on the side and I was just sort of observing what was going on. And I realized that I was sort of, okay, so I had unconsciously identified one person in the room as the jerk. Like, not a person who's just like not nice, because this person had actually like triggered my TI a little bit before. So I was like, that person is like, and I realized that I was like unconsciously like keeping an eye on that person and trying to figure out like, are they gonna trigger other people's TIs? Like, you know, are they gonna like make other people upset? And I was kind of like trying to gauge like how people were responding to this one person. Like, oh, when that person talks to that person, how do they feel? What are they feeling? Like, what's going on? And I remember there was like another person that I had identified, like, okay, this person can like take care of their own emotions. I could tell like when they were interacting, this guy was like fine. So like, okay, I don't care about you. Like, who, you know, what's going on with these other people? Like, how is their emotional state? Are they also triggered by this other person over there? And I was just so concerned about their emotional state. And I had also unconsciously identified the people in the room who I felt like were more emotionally secure and more emotionally insecure. So like I had identified the people who I felt were more likely to like get in like, you know, an emotional roller coaster, and I would be like laser focused on them and trying to figure out like, are they going to be okay? Is something going to happen with their emotions, and do I need to like jump in and like solve a problem here, type of thing. So that was a really interesting experience because it was the first time that I had like consciously sort of like seen what was going on with my FE. But it does feel like in some circumstances, and I don't feel like I do this all the time, but in some circumstances I can feel you know, just really obligated to make sure everyone in the group is at least not like in a bad emotional state, you know, is at least somewhat positive. And I'll like be kind of on guard and try to jump in if I need to like, I don't know, save the day and make everyone happy, as if that's a thing. So,
Sheila, to the rescue.
Or not, or just me sitting in the corner being concerned about things that aren't happening. You know, like no one's emotional state got like out of whack. There was nothing to actually be concerned about. I was just so worried that something was going to happen because my emotional state had gotten triggered previously, you know? So it's like, oh, my emotional state got triggered. I bet someone else's will too. So like, I need to prevent that from happening.
Now, since you've had that one experience, have you kind of been watching yourself more than when you're in groups of people?
Sort of, yes. And it seems like I'm not always doing that. It does seem like it's when I'm around people who I feel like I can tell that they're not as in control of their own emotional state. Yeah, mostly that, when I feel like I'm around other people who I have a sense that they can't control their emotional state, and somewhat if I feel like my own emotions have been triggered, you know? That seems to be kind of what causes that, but I'm definitely not doing that all the time.
Okay.
Only in some circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, the question, let me reread it just to make sure it's fresh. So when you walk into a room with others in it, do you feel the energy or vibe or overall emotion of the space, and what's the experience like? So I do very much often will walk into a room and feel a vibe. Like, so say I walk, so say there's a group of like your friends sitting in a room and they were just talking about something kind of heavy and you walk in, I'll feel that like heaviness that they were just talking about. And I don't know if it's because I just quick looked at them and the look of their face is showing kind of this heavy, like that they just talked about something heavy, um um or sometimes like even, and I don't know if it's just like decider paranoia, but sometimes I'll walk into a room and I'll feel like, oh, they were just talking about me. Like feel like, and like, and I don't know if I'm just projecting my insecurities on that, or but sometimes it's like you'll walk in and they weren't expecting you or something and they're like, oh, and you're seeing that like shock, and they're and kind of like, not that their face turns red, but you could just feel that, like, and I'm probably, it doesn't happen often, but yeah, I guess I feel that vibe, but I think I'm feeling it when I'm reading the room or reading the people in the room versus if I walked in just blindfolded. I don't know if I would feel that vibe as much. I don't know. I mean, I've never walked into a room blindfolded, so I'm just kind of looking at that visual cues.
I would think you would have to, I would assume you would have to get visual cues on that. Unless you're doing it through like your sense of smell. I smell tension in the room.
One weird thing though, in my old house, I was working in my garden, in my one garden that I was working in. I usually love working in there. It's like my happy place. And I had gone in and was working there. And all of a sudden was by my neighbor's house, like right by this window. And I just felt this like really like heavy, almost like evil presence. I hate, it sounds so weird, but it just was like this dark heaviness that kind of just like sat on me. And I was just like, and I felt almost a little scared. Like I remember kind of looking like, is somebody watching me? Is somebody looking at me? And, nobody's around, the windows, the shades are pulled. And I'm like, okay. So I just couldn't shake that weird feeling. And then like the next day or something, I think I was on Facebook and I was friends with the neighbor on Facebook, and how they post things on their scrolls or whatever. And she had posted something about, she was into like, talking to the dead and Ouija boards and like kind of dark magic type stuff. And I remember she just posted something like she was not doing like a seance or something, but was just kind of like, oh, we had this thing and it was like kind of happened that they did the day before. And it's like, holy crap, was that dark yucky energy that I felt that she was, I mean, I was the weirdest thing. So that was one that there was no visual cues that I remember. Or there's just been times where I've walked into a room and have felt this like kind of a heavy, yucky vibe too. And I don't know. So that's all that I can kind of explain, but most times it's usually visual cues that I'm picking up on people, that I'm reading the room by them.
Yeah. I don't necessarily relate as much to what you said about like feeling like the vibe, like just feeling like a presence. But what you said about visual cues, like being able to walk into a room and then feel like, oh, there's tension here. Like, what are you guys talking about? What's going on? I can feel that there's some tense thing going on, or feeling like someone was just talking about you. That, like, I mean, 100%. I feel like, yeah, I do that all the time. Totally. Or like I also like I can read this is not a very good thing, but I can see someone's facial expression and like assume that they like think something about me. Like, oh, that person feels that I'm this thing. Like I remember one time not too long ago, I was like greeting a group of people and like I was hugging people and like I went to this one guy and I turned around to like hug him. And I don't think he saw me, but he pretty much immediately turned away at the exact same time to like go talk to someone else. And I remember I was so like, oh, he doesn't like me. I don't even think that he saw me, but I was just like, I saw like his body movement that he, you know, I went in for a hug and he turned away. So I was immediately like, oh, I know exactly what's going on with him. He doesn't like me.
Yeah,
Just
I
like
wonder how
stupid.
often as deciders we do that and we're wrong because
Yes,
yeah,
always.
we're
I do
probably
that so much. It's insane.
and I do that too. Like there's this lady who I swear does not like me. And I'm like, I don't know why. And she's nice to everyone. And then I'll walk into a room and she's just right away like, and I'm like, oh, she hates me. And you know, people are like, oh, she doesn't hate anyone. She loves everyone. I'm like, she doesn't like me. You know,
That makes it worse.
and so, but is that just my own messed up? You know, maybe she does like. I wonder how much because we are single deciders that we are not. Yeah, I wonder.
I think, yeah, I would like to hear from an observer if they do that too, because I'm doing that all day long, all the time.
Yeah, I'm that tribe weird too. Like
Yeah.
it stinks. I mean,
It's so weird. It's like, why? When I look back to the reasons why I've made those assumptions, it's like, that assumption was based off of like nothing, you know, like nothing. Someone made some sort of facial expression and I just assumed that they felt some sort of way.
yeah, and I believe it so much too. You know, and like I'm like, oh, yep, but you know, maybe I'm 80% right or 90% right. You know, or maybe I'm not because yeah, how often do we really go up to that person and be like, you don't like me, do you? You know, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I like you. You know, and they'd still probably lie, and you're like,
What are they gonna say? Yeah, you're right. I don't like you.
which I would probably respect more. You'd be like, well, I don't like you either.
At
So,
least you know.
so yeah, weird. Yeah, it's easy to see some of those decider issues. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a decider. But all right. So the next question, are etiquette rules valuable?
Yeah. To be honest, that's really not something that I think about a whole lot. Like, are etiquette rules valuable? Like, I think it's important to be, you know, somewhat polite to other people and not go around like, you know, totally breaking social norms and, you know, like just being a jerk. But like etiquette rules, when I think of etiquette, I think of like, I don't know, how to like eat properly at a fancy dinner table type of thing. Yeah, exactly. You eat your salad with this fork and you eat, you know, like things like that, which
Mhm.
I think that the intention, I'm assuming that the intention of this question was more along the lines of like, are sort of rules of like social norms valuable? And I think like kind of to an extent because you don't want to walk around like, um, okay, I think what my brain is telling me is I think that people should not walk around triggering other people's TIs because that's like what I view the world as. But beyond that, no, who cares? When you ever to sum it up, I think that's what like my brain thinks.
That was so IP of you.
Is it?
Yeah, just like don't 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 tell baby what to do. You know, like you're
Yeah.
valuing TI, which is great. If it's low, I mean, you should put a lot of weight and value on your TI. So good for you. Like nice work.
I guess.
Yeah, yay, Julia. Etiquette for me, I guess just the basic social norms that just keep society running pretty smooth. I feel it's it's if they're easy and it just would make things just flow easy, then why not do it? If it's not affecting your values or, like if, yeah, just, being nice. Or I find myself, if somebody's right behind, if I'm walking into like a building and somebody's right behind me and I feel them right behind me, I'll hold the door and kind of just like look back and hold it for them a little bit so they can grab it, where there's some people who just walk in and just let the door slam and you're like, oh, thanks, dude. Like they'll just but I'm always aware of what's around me too. Like the people around me, maybe sometimes some of those people just don't see that I'm behind them. But then my decider takes it weird, like, really, you couldn't just hold the door extra 2 seconds, or so, or like if I'm in the grocery line and I have, a bunch of stuff in my cart and the person behind me has like 4 things in the cart, I'm kind of like, oh, you go ahead, you can go ahead of me, because I have a bunch of stuff. And they're like, half the time they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, I'm okay. I'm like, no, just go, and they're like, well, thanks, and, so it sounds very, FE, those things I do, but it's just easy. And, and then if they look at me like, oh, she's a nice girl, then I'm like, yay, significance. I am a nice girl, like they're stoking my ego. Or at least when they're like, well, thanks a lot, I'm like, it just makes me feel like, heck, yeah, see, they're seeing me as a good person. Probably because I don't do, in general, I'm kind of do like worry about myself more. So then when I'm out in public and I'm peacocking my TE, my feminine TE of helping others, and, it's going to make their day, then I'm just like, yay, peacock, so.
Yeah. And I feel like I do those things for myself. I hold the door open for people and try to do like common courtesies for people. And I appreciate it when other people do those things for me, but it's not something that I like spend my time thinking about really. I also think like if someone else doesn't open the door for me, like they might have a zillion reasons why they don't do that. Maybe they're in a hurry. Maybe they are the type of person, like some people think it's like, I don't know, like I've heard people say it's like sexist to open the door for a woman. I don't know, like whatever. So maybe someone else has some reason why they're not doing it, and that's perfectly fine by me. I don't care one bit.
Yeah. If they don't do it, I'm kind of like, once in a while, especially if they see me and they let it slam, then my decider weirdness gets like, how dare they not hold the door open for me? Like, like I do get a little weird occasionally with that. And it's, I don't know why, but I will. Or like if I'm on the road and somebody cuts me off, I get a little more like, how dare you cut me off? Like, I don't know. And I don't know if that's because I feel like they're hitting me a little. I don't know why that bothers me as much. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic or does something rude, do you get your undies in a bunch or not too bad?
Um, when you say cut someone off, I think of like a dangerous situation. I think of someone like cutting, like veering in front of me, and then I have to slam on the brakes so that I'm not hitting them. And in that case, yeah, I'll be a little like shaken up from that because I feel like that's dangerous, that's irresponsible of them. Maybe they weren't paying, I don't know why they did it, but for whatever reason, it's irresponsible. Um, so that I don't like, not for etiquette reasons, just because it's like, be a safe driver and like it scares me. If someone is like on the road and like they like need to get over because they're about to miss their stop and they're clearly like trying to like nudge in, and like I make eye contact and they're like trying to nudge in, like when it's like there's really not that much space and I have to hit on the brake to like let them in so that they can get off at their stop, that doesn't bother me at all. That's like, yeah, I'll like step on the brake for someone if it's like a safe way for them to get in and do what they need to do. Not an issue for me.
Yeah. And
So.
I'm usually really not a road ragey person at all, but it's like those people that, you stop and you can see them coming on the right hand of the shoulder, like they're riding the shoulder, just trying to get further because it's back, and it's illegal in Minnesota.
Those people bother me so much.
You
Yeah,
can't
totally.
ride on the right, shoulder,
Yeah.
but they do because they're in a hurry. And sometimes I get triggered, but sometimes I'm like, well, maybe
Yeah.
they're on the way to the hospital. Maybe they have to, like my double observing will kick in. I'll be like, well, maybe they had to do this, or maybe so
Yeah.
I'll usually calm myself, but right away, my first response is trigger, like, but then I'm like, maybe this and maybe that. So that whole double observing will kick in a lot, and I'll just rationalize why they might be doing something. But sometimes you could just be like, what a jerk. It always seems to be like pickup trucks too that do that. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm getting decider weird here, people. All right. So let's see.
Okay.
Describe your friendships, relationships.
Okay. So for me, I feel like I always feel like I have to have, or at least I always have had one person who's like really, really close to me, like very, very close to me. And Shan especially has talked about that a lot. Like that's like an EJ thing, having one person that's like really close to you, because you can put your DI on that person, because it's like I can't be in control of my own DI. I need someone else to like literally be my DI, and then now they're my identity, and like I have to have them because like they, tell me my identity. So I have always had one person who I'm really, really close to. And then a lot of other friendships, like unless they're like that person that I'm like insanely close to, I feel like a lot of people I can like keep at arm's distance, because it's also like having my TI is like my weakest function. It's like my most vulnerable function. So it can be hard to like just show that to a whole bunch of different people and like get close with a lot of different people, So like I have one relationship that's like really, really close, and then a lot of people I keep at arm's distance. But like I'm also like I'm really nice and fun and bubbly, so like it's easy for me to make friends. Like I make a lot of different friends and like make a lot of different acquaintances, but like I'm not necessarily really close with those people. So that's kind of how I navigate my relationships. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely only have like one or two close friends. Like my husband obviously is my best friend that I can share everything with. And then I have one other best friend that we've been friends since kindergarten that knows me like as well, if not almost as well as my husband. And those are my two people that as long as I have them, I don't feel like I need anyone else. I just, I don't, so people exhaust me for the most part. Like if a friendship isn't going to be easy, and if they're a lot of work, then I will not put the energy into them at all. And I assess that pretty quickly. If I meet somebody and if they're going to be just the slightest high maintenance for me, or if I don't feel like I can be me around them, like I have to hide part of me, which I hide part of me mostly, but if I really feel like I have to hide a lot of me, I'm not going to be around that person. I'm not going to even pretend to like them. Like I just, nope, they're not going to be part of my circle. And so I think as long as I have one or two people in my life that I can just bear, here she is in all her mess and glory, and you love me, then I'm happy. So I think I just need, that one or two, and anyone else is not worth the energy. That sounds bad. I mean, I'll be friends, but keep it light and but yeah, they're definitely, like you said, arm's length away. So
yeah, and it's because I do it for a totally separate reason. Like if I'm around someone and it's clear to me that they want to like really, really, really get to know me, but I have not made the decision that they're someone that like I trust, then I get really, really standoffish. Like I can be really just like get really like scared if someone tries to really, really, really get to know me like really fast before I've decided that like they're, a trustworthy person that I can like be, vulnerable in front of. So that's like not exhausting to me, but like scary to me. That's when I get like really standoffish.
Does it take you a while to figure that out, or do you know right away?
Oh, to figure out what if someone's like the type of person that I can actually like
That-
show my identity to, type of thing.
Yep.
Sometimes it really depends. Sometimes I'll know right away, and sometimes it takes me a little while. It really depends on the person. Yeah, it totally depends. Sometimes it's instantaneous, but usually when it's instantaneous, it's an instantaneous no. So sometimes it's like an instantaneous no, but I guess if it's a yes, it'll take a little while. There's been a few people where it's like an instant, like, yes, I instantly feel comfortable around you.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many, but a couple.
Yeah. Okay. So we're both kind of like, we're happy with those few. And you would think that, ESFJ would have like a million friends. Like, do you have a lot of friends that you could just call at any random time and say, hey, you want to go out?
I mean, I have a lot of different acquaintances. It's also like I just moved to, well, not just, but like I'm in this city now where I don't know a whole lot of people. So there's not a whole lot of people like around me that I could spur of the moment get together with, just because of my circumstances right now. But I feel like I have sort of a lot of people like in a lot of sort of like different cities that I could, yeah, if I were traveling to like a different city, I had people that I could call up and say, hey, I'm in town, do you want to hang out? I don't know about a lot, but like definitely like a good handful of people that I could do that with. And I also just have like a lot of acquaintances that maybe I wouldn't necessarily want to like call up and be like, hey, do you want to hang out? But like just sort of acquaintances.
What about in high school?
What?
What about in high school?
In high school, I had like one like really close best friend, like best friend, close. And then a group of like, we had like a group of like 4 girls that we were like, pretty close with. And then, an extended group of like a handful of people that I was like kind of close-ish with. But I certainly wasn't like the popular girl in school. Like my group of friends wasn't like the popular friends. We were just like, I don't know, the normal, I don't know.
Okay.
Not the popular people. There was like the group of popular people. We were the normal people. Is that
semi-popular?
Yeah.
Okay.
My school is also different. We actually didn't have like cheerleaders or football teams. We were a little bit the like the kind of more alternative artistic high school in town. So we didn't have like, it was the other high school that had like the really popular cliques. And we didn't have the really popular cliques, but we had like, I think a group of people that were like kind of the popular kids, and I wasn't them. But I had like a decent group of friends in high school, and then still like the one person that I attached myself to.
Okay.
In like a very EJ type of way.
Like a codependent EJ way? Like, would you describe?
I don't know about codependent, but just like feeling like you need another person who you can like talk to at any time. Go to if you need to. I don't know if that's, I wouldn't really characterize it as codependent.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, my most important thing is that they just like me for me. Like,
I've like literally I haven't never thought that, but like that's
not something. Yeah. It's like, if they just love me for me, just who I am, period, end of sentence, then I'm like, okay. Like I could just be like, I know. And I can't even describe, like, it's just, that's it. They just need to love me for me. Period.
sounds very FI.
So you don't relate to that?
Like now I do. Now that like I think I've been thinking things more like that when I'm older, like as I've gotten older and like been in more relationship with people, I think more along those lines. But that's certainly not something that I thought like when I was younger. And it's not something that I think about like all the time. Now it is like because of objective personality, you know, like objective personality has changed things. Now I think about my identity like all day, every day, because I'm, you know, aware of it, because I know that it's like a thing. But before, not as much.
Yeah. And I think throughout high school and in my 20s, I would just go to different groups and see, like, I was just always searching for my person. And it wasn't because I needed to latch onto them. I just needed to like come together, and we both just totally like, it's just like, I guess you could be like one, but just to get me and understand me and see me for me. That was just always like, and if somebody didn't understand me or didn't think the way I thought or valued what I just was like, okay, nope, I can't put my energy into that person because it's too much energy. Not, and then I'd move on to the next person. Like, is this my person? Will they know me? Will they get me? Will they understand me? And so I think I was taking from them where you probably are more like giving to that person, like putting your TI onto them. And I'm kind of like trying to make sure they understand my identity.
Yeah. The question you're asking is like, do they understand me? Do they see me? And I'm more asking like, am I safe with them? Right? Like, can I be vulnerable with them? Or like, do I trust them? Like, basically, also, are they a competent person that like, you know, they can like handle being my TI because I can't be it myself type of thing. But yeah, for you, it seems like it'd be more like, do they understand me? And for me, it's like, am I safe with them?
Okay.
Can I be vulnerable with them? Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So interesting.
I know. So interesting.
All right.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about that one?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I think we're pretty good. All right.
Okay. Oh, next question. What's one thing you can't stand about those close to you? This was like, okay, I have a very interesting response to this one, and I feel like the answer is I can't think of something that I can't stand about people close to me. Well, I can't. So how I was saying before that like my stupid effie brain is always forgetting about negativity and always focusing on positive things. Like, I don't have something that's, you know, like ready to go in my brain about negative things that I feel about the people around me. Like, I just don't see that. And I thought back to when I was doing my initial like OP typing video. One of the questions is like, what are some of the problems that you see with the world? And like, I couldn't come out with an answer. I had no answer to that. I sat there on the video like, I don't see problems. I don't know. And then I even did another video later, like processing that, like I don't see negativity. Like, I don't know. I don't see problems. Are there problems with the world? If there are, I'm sure not seeing them. And with this question, it's like, what's something that you can't stand about like people who are close to you? Like, I don't know. Like, in the moment, sure, I can talk about things that are bothering me about people, you know, like those things come up. It's just that I then forget about them. They're not stored in my brain. I can only tell you in the moment if something bothers me or it doesn't, yes or no, but I won't remember it. Isn't that so funny?
Yeah, I don't relate to that. When when that question came up, I was like, I remember I'm like, how long do you have? You know, because I could go on about all the problems I see in the world. When I watched it back, it was all people, 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 people. I was like, oh my gosh. I seriously was thought, like, when I sent in my, thing, I was like, oh, I think I'm a double decider. And then I'm looking back, I'm like, how the hell did I think but I was seeing my double observing, and I was thinking that was double deciding, but no, I'm just observing, like, I'm really good at double observing. And so I was just confused on that concept when I sent it back. But yeah, when I look back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, so people. But when you're in it, and when you do get your type back, it does take a while to really process it, and really to step out of yourself and see what you really are doing. And it's not easy for people to do that. They're just like, sometimes I still have my blinders on. I'm like, oh, I don't do that. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I do that. And like,
yeah. Oh no, now I understand myself fully.
yeah. And then I'll do something, and then I'm like, oh. So yeah, I definitely, and so problems I see with people around me, I guess the biggest one that irks me is when people invade my space, I guess, and not give me my space. I mean, I'm one to be able to, like, be open and stuff, but if somebody's coming in and demanding things from me, I don't like when people put their obligations on me, when they put their demands on me, when they put their feelings on me. Like, I can deal with people's emotions, but if somebody comes at me and says, you made me feel guilty, I'm thinking, I can't make you feel guilty. You made yourself feel guilty. Like, I don't like when somebody puts those emotions on me that and it might be just more of the attacking. Like, that's what I'm just like, ugh, I get so frustrated with. Like, I can't make you feel that. It's like, be responsible for your own feelings is probably the one that irks me the most.
And it's funny because I actually do feel the same way that you feel about, like, your emotions are your responsibility. But for me, it's like a discovery. It's like, we are all responsible for our own emotions. And yeah, no one can make you feel guilty. So I say stuff like that all the time now, but it's because it's a discovery.
Yes. And it's just always been for me. It's just always been something that has just, like, irked me. Like, no, you are responsible for your own feels. In a savior state, I'm just like, yep. So yeah, I think that when people do that, that's what irks me. I'm just like, no. So all right. You go for the next question too? Mine's over there.
Sure. Oh, yeah. So next question. After an intensely emotional event, like a funeral of a close friend, what would you do? Do
you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I usually retreat, and I have to just be by myself and process the emotions. I don't like being around people when I'm processing my emotions, like I've talked about. I just want to be by myself. I don't want to answer phone calls. I don't want to do anything. I'll probably, when I'm like, get to that point where processing really heavy emotions, I retreat to my bed and I will, just lay there. I'll cry. I'll do my, like, emotional thing by myself, nobody around me. And then I'll sleep. And when I get really asleep, I use sleep a lot to process. And I don't know, I mean, if subconsciously I'm processing while I'm sleeping, but it's nothing like a good sleep and wake up feeling, like, I'll still, like, if it's really a heavy emotion, I can wake up from that nap and then that feeling will come again and be like, oh, and then, process. So depending on how heavy that feel is, but nope, it's by myself. Nobody look at me, nobody talk to me, nobody say anything to me. I need to process.
Yeah. And so how I would handle it is if I had a very intense emotional event, just like cry and cry and cry and cry. And I would also retreat like by myself and go, cry like away from people. But it would be either because I feel sort of embarrassed about like how expressive I'm being, or more likely because there's like no one around that I feel close enough to like be able to sort of communicate that with. But if I'm around someone who's like my person who I'm really, really close with, then I would much prefer to like cry with them and talk it out with them and process with them rather than alone. But like I would rather process alone than process with someone who's not like my person, who's not like really close to me.
Yeah, very rarely do I even want my husband in the room with me when I'm processing the emotions. Once in a while, I've lost both my mom and dad, and he knew them really well, and I knew he, felt what I felt in a way, like he could understand me, a little bit better. I would, lean on him occasionally and just be like, but talk more about, like, probably not the emotional part, but more like, oh, remember when they did this? Like, I'd want to have that connection with him when I wanted to talk about like the good times we had with them, or like that type of lean on him there. But to just be in my grief, I would just be very by myself. And my husband would just, he'd be like, he knows to leave me alone too. He's like, okay, you just do your thing. And he knows not to pry then. But yeah, I don't like, and it's not that I feel vulnerable. I don't think, to let somebody see me cry. I don't cry that often. Even when I do cry, my husband's like, whoa, he's kind of taken aback because I'm not one to cry in front of people often, but I don't think it's because I'm embarrassed. I just feel like they're my tears. If I want to share them with you, I will, but I usually don't want to. Does that sounds so weird?
Why is that weird? It just sounds very high.
I know, but when I say it out loud, I'm like, oh. Like they're my tears. They're my, like, I feel like so, like, it sounds so, I guess when I'm hearing it out loud, I'm like, whoa, I don't know. Probably because but it is what it is.
Okay.
You not get embarrassed crying in front of people?
I do. Yeah, I do. Well, it depends on if it's the type of thing that I can like rein in. I don't feel embarrassed like letting out a little bit of emotion and then sort of like getting control of myself. But if it's like something really intense that like I just crying, yeah, I feel very embarrassed about that.
Yeah, I'll hold it back, like at a funeral or something, that tear will start coming down, and like, I'm just like, okay, and I'm working at keeping it all like like toughen up, like don't let them see you weak, I just feel like that. So
yeah. Okay, I actually need to plug in my computer. I need to go get my cord. Can we take a break for like just a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll be right back.
Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Maybe I'll edit this part out, but I'm the worst editor ever, and I might have to even divide it up into a couple parts with her. But yeah, we have so much feeling to talk about. And so yeah, I can't wait to look back at this and watch it and glean some insights too. But yeah, we're almost done. What time is it? Oh, we're a couple chatters.
I'm back.
All right. I was chatting to myself on here, but maybe I'll edit. I don't know how much, or even having to do 2 parts, who knows, but I'm the worst editor ever, so I'm just not. I used to be tech savvy, but I just don't care to do it anymore. It's not on my priority, so we just roll with it. All right. What's the next question?
Okay. Next question. How would you help a friend who just confessed to a mistake? For example, cheating on their partner, acting recklessly, etc. What would you say to them?
Be like, hey, dumbass.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this question. This is like,
so like if it's a close friend, and I usually just have my close friends who I can just be real around, I don't have a problem kind of being like, well, one, if it was something, okay, first of all, I usually don't have a lot of friends that do real bad things. I mean, I just don't hang around people that, I mean, yes, we all can make mistakes, but in general, you know, like I surround myself with people that choose to, you know, make good choices for the most part. So if somebody does make a bad decision, it's usually kind of out of character, and I'd kind of be like, whoa, that was not, you know, something that I would have expected you to do, would be my thought. Or I'd even be like to them, like, did you really? That's so unlike you. And they'll be like, I know, you know. So I'd probably just kind of call them on the carpet with what they did, and I'll be like, um, so if they came to me and did something, and I'm like, and I'd be like, well, what are you going to do now? Like, I just kind of talk them through it. I'm not one to really judge them. I'd probably just be more in shock and just be like, well, why? What, you know, I kind of would want to know the why. I don't know. How about you? What do you, that's
I
kind
mean,
of,
I sort of, with this question, I sort of imagine someone like doing something and then regretting it later and like coming to me for advice. Like, what do I do? I made this big mistake. So I imagine myself like empathizing with them, first of all, because like we all make mistakes, you know, like mistakes happen. That's okay. But also, like, if this were the type of thing where someone confessed to me something that, like, a mistake that they made, and then they, for whatever reason, like, didn't want to right that, like, right their wrong, I would have a major problem with that. Like, I don't know exactly what I would do, but, like, that would be, you know, like, not okay with me. If someone makes a big mistake, and then they regret it, and like they're coming to me for advice and they want to right the wrong, I would like help them in whatever way I can. I would empathize with them. I would you know, be a shoulder for them to lean on. I would help them in, you know, whatever way they need. But like, I think if someone does something wrong, then they need to like right that wrong. Mistakes happen, but make it okay.
yeah.
So it totally depends on who the person is, I guess.
And the mistake.
And the mistake, yeah.
Because there's some things that I'm just like, that's a big mistake. Like, how the heck did, you know, like, and it just, I don't have that come up in my life. I'm trying to think
maybe
back.
let's make it a really extreme example. Say someone approached you and they said, Sheila, I need to tell you something. I just murdered a person and I need you to help me get away with it. What do you say?
Well, no, I wouldn't do it because morally, I know there's no way. Like,
Yeah.
even I told my husband, like, I don't think I would cover for you if something like that happened. Like if all of a sudden you did something, I I'm like, no, you are responsible for your consequence, your action. So no, I am not one to so if my friend came to me and said they just murdered somebody and help, I would be like, okay, and then get on the phone right away and be like, 911, what's your emergency? My friend just found somebody, you need to come here ASAP before, like, yeah, I would throw them under the bus in a second. There's no way I would. There's no way.
I know, right? Because I feel like honesty and integrity are like such huge values that like if someone came to me that they did something wrong and like they didn't want to write it, I'd be like, if it's something like serious, I'm throwing you under the bus too. Sorry. But like it needs to be made right. If they, like you said, if they made a mistake and they're like so regretful and they like want to make it right and they, want to like do the right thing, then like I would be there for them, yada yada yada. But I also like I would feel obligated to, if this person were trying to do the right thing, I would feel obligated to help them, like to help them like do whatever the right thing was in that context.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I have never encountered this situation, so I've never had to make that decision, which is great.
No, and same here. Hopefully that never happens. Or even like a friend come to me that said, this has never happened either, but what if she came to me and said, I cheated on my husband or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm like, that would be so hard for me to, well, one, I would lay into her. I'd be like, really? Like, yeah, and so I think my beliefs would come out and not, I can't pretend that would be okay.
Yeah.
I just,
And that particular example is so difficult because it's such a gray area. Like some people actually think it's more ethical to like not like tell the other person as to like not, rock the boat and like, oh, that's their issue. But I also feel like if someone told me that they cheated on their husband or something like that, I would be like, how do I keep that secret? Like, is it the right thing to keep that secret, or is it not the right thing to keep that secret? I don't know if I could have that person in my life, or like that would just be, that would be so difficult.
yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to tell the husband, or I would probably persuade her to be like, you need to come clean, you need to, like, and if she didn't and I don't know if I would just end that friendship, or say, I don't know. That would be so hard because I put myself in the other shoe, and if my husband was cheating and my friend knew, I would want to know, no matter
No,
what.
you would like to know?
Yeah, I would want to know.
Yeah.
I would want to know. And I think it would be hard because I think so many people get scared of being, getting shot to be the messenger, especially if, they worked it out in this, because, but yeah, I would want to know. And if my friend knew and didn't tell me and I found out she knew, then that would be even almost more upset. That's even more as upsetting, So yeah, that's just weird. I don't know. I don't like
it. That's just like a difficult situation. And also, it doesn't seem like that's FI related at all. That's just like, what do you do in a difficult situation?
Yeah, and I guess it would be just if you think it's morally right or wrong, and you believe is right or wrong. I'm sure there's people out there who think cheating on their spouse is just fine. Be like, well, maybe she should be, putting it out more for her husband, then he wouldn't be cheating. Like that type of mentality, And so, because I feel like society has gotten so loose with their morals, and I'm not that way. I'm very, very not loose, so I think.
Yeah. And so the one thing that I can think of that might be like kind of FE-ish is like when I'm putting myself in that situation where, say, a friend tells me that they've cheated on their husband, and I'm like trying to decide, like, oh my God, do I tell the husband? Do I cut this friend out of my life? Yada, yada. The thing that my brain goes to is like, okay, for me, like, I of course would want to know, and I would feel hurt if a friend knew that information and didn't share with me. But what's like the husband's value? Like, what does he want? And me not knowing what his value is, that's like, I don't know, difficult. That's difficult to navigate because I don't know what he would want.
I know. It's almost like you just have to wait and be put in that shoe to really know what you would do.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have not had to wear those shoes yet.
Same here.
Any of my friends watch this video, don't tell me anything because I'll probably spill the beans.
Yeah, like, don't confess to me.
No, not with my big mouth.
Yeah, go to your really unethical friend. They'll be the one that'll hold your hand. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Next question is, how do you feel about egocentrism, and how do you feel about authenticity?
All right. So as we chatted earlier, that was one of the words I had to look up and be like, what's that?
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I know ego means I in Latin, the self, but so so probably like self-centered. What I looked it up, and it's kind of being, a little more self-centered. So do you want to take this one first, since the FI is?
So egocentrism is not something that I think about very frequently these days. Authenticity is more so. But so for let's say selfishness, so this is just a little anecdote, but I remember as a kid, when I was like 12 years old, having this like thought that we as human beings are all inherently selfish, and like the purpose of our life is to get over that like selfish state and like be a good person. And like that was my little 12-year-old self's like really deep understanding of the world, that like human beings are selfish, and like we have to work so hard to not be selfish and like get over that. So as a 12-year-old, I thought about selfishness a lot, and I thought that I was a really selfish person, and like that was bad, and I needed to overcome it. I don't think about that as much now. I'm not the type of, I don't think like people always talk about like the EJ anecdote of like pointing at people and being like, they're a narcissist, like they're selfish and only focused on themselves, and like they don't give to others. And I haven't seen myself do that. So that's not something that I think about a whole lot. What about you? How do you think about egocentrism and selfishness?
I never thought about selfishness as a kid. That just was never on my radar. It wasn't until I became an adult, and more so just recently with this whole OP, that I have realized how selfish looking I can be. And I just was so blind to it. And so, like I've said in numerous places, when I started doing this whole self-analyzing and stuff, I went to my 3 closest people, my sister, my husband, my best friend. And I said, on a scale of 10, how selfish am I? And they all came back 7.7, 7.5. And I was like, okay. And I wonder if they wanted to say 8, but they didn't. And I'm kind of like, in a way, I wasn't surprised, but in a way, I was kind of like, wow. Like, it was almost like, yeah, I guess I am on that end of the spectrum of being selfish. But then, like, this whole selfish thing, we've had the conversations on the Facebook thing too, is like just filling yourself up first so that you're good for others. And so I never looked at myself as selfish, but I do put what is best for Sheila, and I think about myself before I think about others all the time. It's just, my brain just goes right to it.
Mm-hmm.
First think about me and how that, and then how others. So it does.
And before objective personality, I thought that I was the type of person that was doing that. I thought that I was the type of person like, oh yeah, of course I think about myself before I think about others. Like, I just thought that people were inherently like that, and I was like that too. And it was, that was one of the harder things for me to, well, maybe not harder, but like, I totally thought I was the type of person who thought about myself before others. And like, I never pointed the finger at, you know, other like narcissistic people, because I was like, oh, we're all selfish, I'm selfish too. Even though I kind of had a sense that like selfishness is like bad, like you shouldn't be selfish, but I don't know. I don't think that selfishness is bad now. So.
Yeah, and I just never even, it wasn't on my radar, because I don't realize when I am being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I am in my little bubble and I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm just thinking about, and then all of a sudden I forget to come up and look around and see the needs of other people around me, because I'm just so like, and my husband's, so we've been talking about all this, and he's realized, I mean, he has seen it over the years, and you know, but like, even if he comes home and I'll just be talking, and then I'll just walk by him and he's like, hello, can I get a hug? And I'm like, oh yeah. I didn't even think about it, because I was just kind of in my little like world and doing my thing. And then I'm like, oh yeah, there you are. Like, right. Like, I forget to stop and look around me, because I'm so just doing my own thing. And it's not even that I'm in my head doing my own thing. It's just like, if I'm just like busy, you know, doing something, it's like, then I'm consumed in doing that thing. And I'm just like, oh yeah, people need me, or yeah. So, or I have, you know, like not returning phone calls, not returning texts. And then, you know, people call, you know, like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? You know, like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't. So I just don't realize it. And I didn't think it was selfish, but I can see how the outside tribe looks at it as selfish, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not in my brain. But I see why they think it is.
And it's funny, because the example you gave about like your husband coming home and you being like in your own thing and like forgetting to hug him or whatever, I feel like I would do that too. Like, I would see myself doing that. You know, being like in my own little world and like forgetting about someone around me. And if they said like, hey, can I get a hug? The difference is then I would like feel, oh my god, like so terrible, like so bad, that oh my god, I was in my own head when like someone else needed a hug, like, oh, that's terrible, that's the worst. And like, before objective personality, I would probably be the EJ that would be running around being like, oh yeah, gosh, I'm always thinking about myself and like forgetting about other people. And like, I would probably give an example that you would give, like, my husband came home and like, I'm always like in my little head and I forget to hug him. And like, oh gosh, I do that all the time. I just like forget about people. But like, I have to trust the OP math that like, I'm probably not doing that often. It's just that when I do it, it feels like it's a really big deal, because it's the thing that like, you know, I notice that I do.
And see, so if somebody calls you out how you feel so awful, I'm the opposite. If somebody calls me out for my fault like that, I get defensive. I'll be like, well, oh yeah, I was going to give you a hug, or, oh yeah, you know, like, I don't like being called out on that part of me. Or I'll just be like, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, you know, and I'll hug them or whatever and move on. But I never feel bad. But if they come at me with a, you know, like a feeling like a attack, like, what, you're not going to hug me, or, you know, he doesn't talk to me like that. But if they came at me with that type of words, and I'm just like, then but I'm never like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, like, I just be like, oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
or I get irritated when people call me out on being, you know, just me.
And my response would be immediately, oh, I'm so sorry. and then I would give them the biggest hug in the world. And there's even been times where people would say like in a really sort of like, I don't know, annoying way, like, what, you're not gonna hug me and like be weird about it like that? And my response would still be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and hug them. And then later I would think like, why do I say it like that? Like, come on, don't give me a hard time about that. But like that would come later. My immediate response would be like, oh, of course, I'm so sorry.
And my immediate is like nails on a chalkboard, like, ugh, like right away I'm like, oh, yeah. So
okay, so authenticity. How do you feel about authenticity?
it's like taking a breath. You go first this time.
Authenticity is something that honestly I've been like thinking about, like processing for the last like, I feel like 3 years. Like, oh yeah, like authenticity is like a really high value, yet I feel like, who is my authentic self? What is my TI? I don't know. So I feel like that's something that I think about all the time and I value. But until I found objective personality, it was like this weird thing that I was like, I know that it's good, but I don't get it. What is it? It's weird. So yeah, I think about it all the time now, but it's, I don't know, something that's is not like taking a breath to me.
So if somebody's like, who is Julia?
Yeah.
Can you just ramble?
That depends. Do you want me to do it right now?
Can you?
I don't know. Maybe. No, I mean, okay. Like, yeah, I sort of, I don't know. I don't want to.
Why?
Well, okay. Can you just, like, if I said, who is Sheila, could you just ramble?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I would probably give you, like 5 adjectives to describe myself. Okay, if you said, who is Julia? I would think back and think about how other people have described me and give you 5 adjectives that I know would hold up to other people's description of me, which would be something along the lines of, I'm kind and generous and smart and care and like bubbly and like, I don't know, other things like that. But like I would make sure that it's something that's like lines up with reality.
Okay.
A lot reality meaning like how other people would say it. It wouldn't be something that was like really authentic. If someone said, who is Julia, my first thought would not be give a really authentic response that feels true to me. It would be like, what would other people say about me? What do I feel is true? Does that line up? Okay, can I come up with something that I can talk about that lines up with what other people think and also what I think? And okay, yeah, here's a set of things that sort of fits that criteria. Which is not authenticity at all. It's like pretty much the opposite, right?
I don't know. Does everybody have their own version of what authenticity is? I don't know. Like, okay, so ask me.
Okay, tell me about Sheila.
Who is Sheila? Okay. So Sheila is a wife, a mother, a farmer. Sheila is a seamstress. Sheila is an artist. Sheila is funny. Sheila's quirky. Sheila's caring. Sheila's impatient sometimes. Sheila is hardworking. She's a friend. She's a sister. She is a Christian. She is 5'7". She weighs, I'm not telling you. So I could go on and on about all who Sheila is and her characteristics and her values. And I could tell you probably how people perceive me. Yeah, Sheila can be selfish. Sheila can be giving. Sheila is selfish and giving. Sheila is, yeah, I could go on and on of who I am inside and out.
Wow.
Is that
I
out?
I don't know if that's like specifically, I think that's just like knowing your identity. I would say that authenticity is like my own personal definition is authenticity is knowing who you are, who you want to be, and then also acting in accordance with that. You know, so there's also the acting component. But what you were talking about, the rambling about like who you are, your characteristics, I feel like that's one bit of it, which is, you know, knowing your identity, knowing who you are.
Yep. And I could go on, Sheila, you know, like for future Sheila, you know, like she's going to be a world traveler. Sheila, you know, like I can see what I want to do in the future too, of who I want to be and want to do and want to portray as, you know, a human and a whole identity. So yeah, what else could authenticity be? And it's just being true to yourself too. Like, I'm not going to go against my morals. You know, like if I believe, you know, in a certain thing, then who I am is not going to be that person who does things like that. You know what I mean? Too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I could give you a list if I wanted to get really personal, but of course, my FI doesn't want to get too personal. I like to stick to a bag, you know, but.
And I think I mean, I like to stay even more vague than you because I feel like I couldn't even, maybe I could go on a ramble like that, like what you just did. I probably could, but it would be really uncomfortable. It would not be natural. It would certainly not be something I want to do or would volunteer to do.
Do you feel like you'd be bragging?
Sorry, I would be what?
Bragging?
Bragging?
Bragging.
No, not bragging. Not like, oh, I would be bragging and I don't want to be bragging. It'd be more like I would feel very vulnerable doing that. It's just very personal, not something I'm comfortable with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my personal values, I would kind of keep quiet, but as like, you know, you know, a wife and a mother, you know, you can see those from the outside too. Yeah, or even like if I want to say I'm, you know, good at this or that, like I don't have a problem, you know, toot my own horn in certain things. I don't like when people want to toot my horn for me. I'm like, I'll do it. Like I guess I'm so independent and I just don't, I have this like, just don't, you know, like, yeah, I'm just so strong in me that I don't want people invading any of that or tweaking it or putting their thoughts of it, or like, so when somebody tells, you know, thinks that I'm a certain way and I know that I'm not, I think that's what makes me so mad. Like even so back to that vet who thought I didn't know, I think that's what makes me so mad. I'm like, you don't know me, you don't, you know, understand me, don't presume that you know me. Like that just gets me so mad. Do you think because your identity is lower, that you're kind of like, oh, I don't know myself, or I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like I don't, I'm not confident enough in like those things that I would say. Like I would want to really make sure that those things hold up in reality, you know, because I just feel like, ooh, what if I'm wrong on that? What if that's not actually true? Is that true? Okay, I think it's probably true. Yeah, okay, I can use that one because this reason. That's why that holds up in reality. And like, I would want to make sure that like the things that I were saying were actually true. And I wouldn't feel very confident with it.
But they're your truth. Like for me,
No, but it's like I don't think about, I also, like the rambling that you went on, like, I don't think about those things as much. I am this, I am that, I am, whatever. I think about um, what do I believe about the world? What are my beliefs? Which to me, I think is my TI. I don't know. It's something that's just feels like vulnerability to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm just confident. I'm like, here I am, people, and I don't mind, if they don't like me, I'm still like, whoa, why don't they like me? But in a way, I'm kind of like, just like, well, it's like it's an inner conflict because, I want people to like me. Obviously, I think most people do in general, if they're being honest with themselves, they want to be liked in society. But in a way, if somebody comes at me and they don't like me, I might be like, well, why? I want to know the why, but I'm not going to change at all. I'm like, well, if I know why they don't like me, say they don't like me because I'm too, what's the reason why somebody, like, say I'm too talkative, or something like that. I'm not going to change me to fit them. So as long as I know, oh, that's why they don't like me, then I'll be like, they're, like, they're lost. But I think I'd just like to know the reasons. And maybe that's that demon T. Like, I need to know why. Well, the why and the reasons are both the demon N and the demon T, the understanding. I need to understand why somebody doesn't like me. And then once I understand, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, then I'm not changing. If somebody doesn't like you, or you think somebody doesn't like you, then how do you feel?
I would feel like I would also want to know why, and then I would assess, like, should I be like that? Am I like that? I would also think, like, if it was someone that I didn't trust, then it would be easier for me, like, oh, what do they know? If it was someone that I did trust, I would be like, oh my God, I should be like that. Like, I'm not like that and I should be like that. And, like, how do I become like that? That's what I would think.
Yeah. No. I come to the table with what I already know who I am. So when like, my plate is full when I come to a table with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds so cocky, and I don't mean it to sound cocky, but yeah, I don't know. I don't like people putting any more food on my plate because my plate's full already. When it comes to who I am. Now, am I perfect? Heck no. If I'm doing something wrong, I will take in account of, like, what, somebody thinks, oh, so I'm not so stubborn in my ways that I'm just like, I'm not going to bend with things, but not my core. Like, yeah. But the things that I don't value that much on the outside, like, oh, say I'm always late, which I'm never late, but say I'm always late and somebody's like, oh, that really irks me that you're always late. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll work on that. But that's not an identity thing. That's just kind of I'm sometimes late, or, so yeah. So I appease the tribe with the superficial things, but never with me. You appease the tribe with you?
I don't know. I mean, how, like, do I appease the tribe with me? No, I appease the tribe with, like, trying to make people happy. I appease the tribe with, like, positive emotions. I appease the tribe with, like, yeah, just generally trying to, like, make people. I mean, that's like my default programming, right? To appease the tribe by, like, trying to do something that will make them happy.
Do you think you ever squash your TI then in?
People ask me, I feel like, because I've been doing like these YouTube interviews, and like that's like something that people like ask all the time, like, do you squash your TI to like do something for someone? And it doesn't ever feel like that, because it always just feels like it's so automatic to like see other people before I see myself. So it doesn't feel like squashing my TI or going against my TI to do something for someone else. It just feels like it's so natural to prioritize another person before myself. And also it's so natural to like not have as good of a grasp of my TI compared to other people. That said, if there's something that my TI has locked onto, and I'm aware of, you know, my TI and what I think about something, if I have that deep-seated awareness, I would never go against that. You know, if I had strength in my TI about something, then no, I would not choose another person over myself. It's just that doesn't happen as often. But if it's a scenario where like it's someone that I really care about, and then also my TI really cares about something and they're in conflict, then that's like really, really difficult. But that doesn't happen that often. You know?
All right. And I think I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm putting myself first more than not. And then the tribe comes at me and is complaining. And then I'm like, oh, you know, like, fine, you know, I'll bend to you guys. So it's so blatant seeing, you know, FI, you know, like identity way up here and identity way down there. Like when I'm listening to all these EJs versus IP people, I'm like, wow. And it's just so backwards thinking, because I just default think about myself first and then others.
The IP.
And and prior to this OP thing, I mean, I just never put words around it or even thought about it. I mean, I just was like, whoop, just walking around in my little world. And, but, you know, I haven't burned a lot of bridges. I mean, I don't think I have a ton of big tidal waves around it, because one, I don't put the energy to make a lot of friends, to put myself in the position of having the pitchforks coming at me when I do it. So I think have built that little bubble around myself, that safe little bubble, to just not have to deal with the tidal waves. And I don't know, but part of me is like, then I'm missing out. And I've talked about this on some of my things, and, you know, I'm missing out on some experiences and other things that if I put myself out there more, to be more vulnerable to the tribe, maybe I'll have some better outcomes or situations. But it's like I've just have created this perfect little world, emotional world, and I don't like it when it gets rocked, you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question. What is the most important thing that you can teach your children? You will probably be better at answering this than I will, because you have children.
Yes, I do. I have.
So you had to think about this before.
Yes, I have. I have one child, and I think I thought about this last night when I was looking through, and I'm like, okay, if I had to just narrow it down to one NI concept, which I like to do often, it would just be to love. I guess to love yourself, to love others, to love your career, to love animal, like just to love. It's probably pretty simple, but I think if you could just take that one concept of love and look around and put it to everything, and I think you do pretty good. But I don't know, is that just too simple?
No, I think that's great. And I don't have children, so I've never really had to, seriously think about this. But I put about 10 seconds of thought into it. And the first thing that comes to mind is perseverance, actually, because I feel like going through life, we will always encounter difficult things, and there will always be things that we need to overcome. And now, especially with objective personality, I'm realizing that's very different for people, even more so than I thought it was. But as long as someone is perseverant and will, never give up and like always go, continue on, um, like then they can do anything in life. They'll always like find the right path if they don't give up. So yeah, I would say perseverance is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, and that's a great one too.
Yeah.
There's so many, but
There's so many. How can you choose one?
yeah, because there's so many things that just have to work together. But I don't know. Yeah, for me, it would just
Yeah.
be just to
Yeah.
love freely, receive the love freely, just love.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What is one thing that you would change about your day-to-day life? And along those same lines, what aren't you doing that you wish you could do more of?
Okay. Take it away.
This goes back to what I was saying before. Like, I don't see negativity. So I remember I did this exercise one time when I was in grad school, and it was like you had to like ask your friends around you for like good qualities about you and bad qualities about you. And for some reason, most of my friends did not come up with any bad qualities about me. I was like, gee, thanks, guys. They gave me good things and like no bad things. But I had one friend who gave me one bad thing. And the thing that she said was that I could be complacent, like happy with just anything, no matter what it was. And like, I think that that's totally true. That goes back to like the fact that like my brain like doesn't see negativity. And so when I think about this, like, what's one thing that I would change about my day-to-day life? Like, there's nothing that immediately comes to mind, and like I am like always like bettering myself and like changing my environment for the better. So like I'm moving forward. I'm trying to like, always do things better, but I still don't have something in my mind like, oh yeah, this is the thing that like I need to change and like do better, because my brain is just so focused on like forget about the negativity. So like I, I don't have an answer to this one. Same with the other questions. Whenever it's a question like what's something negative, I don't have an answer.
So when
That's
you're
my happy brain for it.
optimistic, then you are really optimistic. So I guess I'm not as optimistic as I thought I was. I can always think of the negative,
Yeah.
but I spin it to try to figure out the positive. So what I would like to change in my day-to-day life is I definitely would love to have more structure, and more planning, because I just wake up and let my day happen to me too much. And I know I could be more efficient if I had this plan, if I had this list of things I should be doing, but I don't do it. And the thought of it sounds so romantic and lovely, but the act of doing it is torture. And so I I just had the hardest time doing it, and I wish I could do it, and I wish I would stay on a routine and structure, and but I cannot. I don't I It's almost like
You can, Sheila. I believe in you.
I know, but then I almost feel like I'm being untrue to myself when I do these plans and structures. And
Huh.
yeah, because I know that it's not me. And then when I'm doing it, I feel fake. Like it's the weirdest thing. It's like, oh, that's not who I am. And I'm not a planner. And then I'm like, feel like I'm being untrue to myself.
Have you tried to sort of like build it into your identity in sort of like a James Clear type of way?
I need to, obviously, because yeah, like,
Yeah. I mean, that's important for everyone to like build that into their identity so that they, automatically do those things. But it seems like I wonder if it would be much more so for elite FI like yourself, um, than someone like me.
yeah, because you have the SI, so you're probably good at it.
I
Like,
still suck at SI. I can't. No, I I suck at SI and I also hate it.
yeah.
But it doesn't like feel inauthentic to do SI type things.
And like, you know how we had these list of these questions, and right away I pimp you out. I'm like, hey, will you type all those up and send them to me? Because I got anxiety looking at all those and putting them in a list. And you made this perfect little email, number 1, number 2, and you typed them all out. And I'm just like, oh, I wish I could. Like, it's like, I love my SI people because I long to do that, and I long to be that. And I guess if I have to, because so I homeschool, and so we have to have some structure here and there, but I know where I really, fall short on that sometimes. So I'm not horrible, but I guess it's more when it comes to um things that I just probably know I should do that I don't do. Like, every Monday I should go to the grocery store. I should do, like, I'm like, I don't know. And it might just be my blast last too, but it's hard to stick to a routine and just do it. And yeah, so I would love to change that about me.
And for me, like the example you gave of me like compiling these lists from Facebook, like to me, like when you said like, oh, that's great SI, I was like, is that even SI? Like that's like SI level 1 to me, and like I don't even like, I forget that that's like part of what SI is. When I think of SI, I mean like legitimately organizing physical things, like keeping my physical environment clean, which is so hard, and just like remembering like facts in an organized way with feminine sensory, like can't do that at all. So like yeah, that's like SI level 1, like really easy SI. It took me 2 minutes to do it.
I know. And when you were doing it, how did you feel doing it?
I didn't even like think about it. I think I like watched a video on YouTube for like 3 minutes while I just copy pasted the questions. The hardest thing for me to do was go into our text message history and find your email address from before, because like I didn't save it, and I was like, didn't save your email address, and like find that. That was the hardest thing for me to do. I didn't even think. I just went to Facebook and copy pasted them from Facebook to a Word document.
No, and I would have
like changed the wording so that
And what I would have done, because I'm not good at SI, is I would have went to Facebook. I would have looked on my screen, wrote all the questions down, and then I would have typed them into, email form so I would have taken from the computer to a piece of paper to my email. And I would have had all these extra steps, and I'm like, oh, that just sounds like so much work. And I'm like, Julia, will you do it for me? Like, this was all my thought process in my head. And then right away, I'm like, is that too much to ask? Because I'm the one that wanted to do this interview, and I'm making you type up all the questions. And I'm like, that is so like, because I just hate that kind of thing. That is the weirdest thing.
And actually, I did prefer doing it myself, because I also like changed the wording of some of the questions. I didn't straight copy paste them, and I also organized them. So like, I don't know if you noticed, we had the emotional questions first, and then we had some like value questions, and then we had like relationship questions, and then like miscellaneous questions. So like I could organize them better and like change the wording so that they would be easier to talk about. So I prefer to do it myself anyways, and it was really easy. It just took me a few minutes.
I would have never thought about organizing them by question either. I
didn't even remember until you were talking about it.
I would have just looked at who responded first and wrote down straight off the thing. Have even thought about categorizing them in that type of format.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Well, because when we started talking about emotions, right, we just naturally went to like question 3. But imagine if that was like question 7, and like then we were like jumping all the way back to question 7 when we had already talked about the emotion things before. It's like it makes sense to have like, because we're having like a discussion, so it makes sense to have all of the sort of emotional questions, you know, in one area so that we can kind of hop around if we need to. It lends more flexibility to the conversation.
It makes complete sense, and it's beautiful, and I would have never thought about it.
Well, you're welcome, Sheila.
Yeah, you don't know when you say, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." I was just like, oh, like this weight.
I know.
Shoulder.
And I was like, oh, woohoo, now I get to control the questions that we have.
Oh, funny. So I think we've got a lot of like great, yeah, it'll be really interesting to go back and watch. So anything that
Totally. We've got a lot of really great insights here, I think, about FE versus FI.
yeah. I'm excited. Hopefully this
Me
week.
too. I'm so glad you thought of this, Sheila. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being my guest. And yeah, well, I'm excited to see what everybody thinks. All right.
Me
Well,
too.
thanks. I'm going to stop this now. And all right.
Oh, it looks like you